Come on, dude. Really? They just have to land there.
Welcome back, everyone. For this month, we'll be checking out Warcraft 3: Reign of Chaos, released on PC in July of 2002. This real-time strategy game is regarded as one of the best RTS games ever made. We should be celebrating the 20th anniversary of this awesome game. But as many of you know, Blizzard gave us Warcraft 3 Reforged back in 2020. While I would love to go back and play the original game, Blizzard updated the original version on Battle.net to the Reforged edition. So unless you have a disc copy or a pirated version, there's no other way to go back and play the original version. In this video we are playing the Reforged edition, which has both the Reign of Chaos and the expansion The Frozen Throne campaigns in it. However, I'm only going to be focused on the campaigns that were released in the Reign of Chaos game, the Prologue, Human, Undead, Orc, and Night Elf campaigns. I'm going to save the Frozen Throne campaigns for next year because that'll be its 20th anniversary, and I don't want this video to be extra long. I'll do my best to mention the major differences in both versions. As usual, we're going to go through the stories, so spoiler warning, what I liked and disliked, and any funny or awkward moments that happened to me during my playthrough. Let's go save Azeroth.
Oh, don't get surrounded.
Yes.
Oh, you surrounded yourself.
You'll have to do better than that, little brother.
I want to start by talking about the game's controversy. When Blizzard announced this remake back in BlizzCon 2018, I was excited, but I kept my expectations low. I simply just wanted to replay all of Warcraft 3's campaigns with updated graphics. I know Blizzard promised a lot, like the in-game cutscenes would have better animations, all the cinematics would be redone like the beginning cinematic they just showed us. I understand why people felt upset and lied to, especially for the multiplayer fans because the game was just straight up broken for them on release and still has many bugs. I personally barely played the multiplayer because I remember trying to play a 4v4 and simply got yelled at by my team for not knowing how to play, so I never touched it ever again. I watched all those funny videos of the game dropping players during a match at a tournament, plus there were so many game-breaking bugs. Even I had issues on release trying to play the campaign. For example, when I click to start playing a chapter, it suddenly takes me to the summary page and says I lost. But despite all that, it still plays just like the original Warcraft 3. I still have a fun time replaying through each and every chapter. I even play on hard to give myself that extra challenge. At first I played through the Human campaign on normal, but it was so easy I thought this would be a disappointing playthrough to talk about. Seriously, it's so easy to play through. I find it hilarious they have a story mode difficulty to make this game even easier to play through. So I went back and played through it on hard and then continued on hard through the rest of the campaigns. Most chapters are still easy to complete, but some did require to reload a save and try something different. The ones that were the most difficult, I eventually figured out a cheesy strategy to win. So despite what people may say about this game, I still think it's worth playing for the single player campaigns. However, since Blizzard abandoned the game and there hasn't been an update in over a year, I would not try to become a professional esports player with this game, unless you are a hardcore fan. I think that's enough regarding its controversy. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about gameplay. There are 4 races to play: Human, Orc, Undead, and Night Elves. Every race starts with a main building for making workers. Your primary resources are gold and lumber. The humans and orcs need 5 workers running back and forth from the gold mine to their base, while the undead and night elves build a structure on the gold mine and also have 5 workers sitting on it to mine the gold. Then the humans and orcs send workers to cut down trees. The undead, however, need to make ghouls to collect wood. All 3 of these cut down trees, which means they will have to venture further away to get more lumber. At least it clears space so you can build on it. However, the Night Elf workers just sit on a tree and collect a small amount of wood, but never cut the tree down. Already you can see each of the 4 races has their own unique gameplay, even just for gathering resources. I'll go more in depth with each race and their units when we go through their campaigns. Each chapter usually adds a new unit for you to play with. Also, the chapter is tailored to the new unit in some form, mostly so you can slowly learn and understand the strengths and weaknesses of the new units. Some are unlocked at the start of the chapter, but others might require you to do an optional side quest to unlock them. Once you have enough resources, you can build structures that produce units. Some units might need their unique ability to be researched at their production structure. All of the races have a structure that upgrades their melee unit damage, melee unit armor, range unit damage, and range unit armor. These can be upgraded 3 times and will make a difference in combat. For spellcasters, they usually have 2 upgrades that make them go from novice to adept, and then to master. Each upgrade increases their mana capacity, mana regen, and unlocks a new ability. There's also hero units that you can get to choose in multiplayer at an altar. Hero units have 3 stats: strength, agility, and intellect. Each hero has a primary stat, such as the paladin uses strength, which means whenever his strength stat goes up, he not only gets the normal increase to his health and health regen, but because it's his primary stat, this will increase his damage by 1 for every point. Collecting items or tomes are a great way to increase this. Agility will increase your armor and attack speed, while intellect will increase your mana capacity and mana regen. Each hero has 3 main abilities and an ultimate ability they unlock at level 6. Some you can activate, while others are just passives. So when building an army, it's best to try and build your army around the hero you have. You might have Thrall, who's a spellcaster, so you might want to have a few extra melee units to tank for him. You also want to keep track of how many forces you have. From 0 to 50, you will be in no upkeep, which means you will get the full amount of 10 gold. Once you hit 51 to 80, you then enter low upkeep, which means your workers are still collecting 10 gold from the mine, but you're only getting 7. If you go up to 81 to 100, then you enter high upkeep and only collect 4 gold. So make sure if you're going into low or high upkeep, it means you are about to attack the enemy. Personally, I don't like the upkeep system. Something tells me it was some form of balancing, or maybe 4v4 matches were too laggy because there's too many units out there, so it was maybe to help combat that. Most chapters are possible to complete in no upkeep, but you really have to be patient and carefully plan your attacks. And you might need to abuse the dumb AI at times. Every chapter is unique in some way. It wasn't always just go destroy the enemy base. Some had no base building and had you run around in a dungeon crawler style. Others might have you race to do something before your enemy does, or hold out for 30 minutes. No chapter ever felt too repetitive to me. All the designers did a great job trying to make their chapters stand out and be slightly different from the others. Okay, let's get on with the story. The first cinematic you get to watch before the game begins is a human and an orc fighting. Then the sky begins to rain of green fire, and Inferno rises from the crater and kills both of them.
We stand now upon the brink of destruction, for the reign of chaos has come at last.
Then we get another cinematic of someone speaking in riddles. Then we see a crow looking for food, and flies away before the orc army comes over the hill. If you look carefully, you'll see a hydralisk.
Zerg! The very mention of this terrifying race once brought fear to all who heard it.
Then a human army charges over another hill. The narrator then mentions the burning shadow is coming to consume them all. The sky begins to rain meteors.
You must rally the Horde and lead your people to their destiny.
The Prologue Campaign serves as a tutorial for the game and sets up the story. We start playing as the orcs and first meet Thrall, who wonders what kind of nightmare he had, but a crow flies by and talks to Thrall. We only know him as the Prophet, and he says it was not a nightmare but a vision. If Thrall follows him, he will reveal what the future holds. We get a voiceover of how to play the game, select units, and how to move.
Skillfully done.
Right now you don't know the layout of the map, but as you explore, the map is revealed to you. Moving into the base, you get some orc grunts to command. If you do some exploring, you can find some loot scattered around, such as a ring of protection for Thrall. Continue to follow the narrator's instructions and get to the end, and speak with the Prophet. He tells Thrall to rally his people and have them sail west to Kalimdor. He has seen the future, and saw the great burning shadow is coming to consume this world.
The demons are returning.
Yes, and only by leading your people across the sea to the distant lands of Kalimdor will you have a chance to stand against them.
The Prophet leaves before Thrall can ask any more questions. Next chapter, Thrall is gathering the Horde and waiting for the Prophet. But after 3 days, he wonders where Grom Hellscreen and the Warsong clan are, but the Orc Grunt says he isn't sure and hasn't heard from the clan in some time.
Damn it, Hellscream. Where the hell are you?
This was the first change I wondered why they made.
Damn it, Grom. Where the hell are you?
But for some reason he says Hellscream now. Anyway, we get a tutorial about base building. You need burrows to increase your unit cap and build a barracks to build more grunts. Once you have enough grunts, some human soldiers finish building a bridge and say the orcs are in violation of the law and that they captured one of their leaders.
War Chief, they say they've captured one of our leaders. Maybe they're referring to Hellscream.
Move across the bridge and begin destroying a human village. Eventually you make it to Hellscream and free him. He shows Thrall some human ships they can take and sail to Kalimdor. As they leave, the Prophet is watching from a mountain. Now, this was normally the end of the Prologue Campaign on the original version of Reign of Chaos, but they added 3 more chapters that were originally taken out, but then playable as custom campaigns on the Frozen Throne game. Let's just go ahead and play through them. Thrall and the Horde sail to some islands after running into a storm. The Orc Shaman sense magic around them, and Thrall discovers they are being watched. Sen'jin of the Darkspear tribe come and make friends with Thrall. He asks for their help in dealing with the nearby human encampment. I do get the feeling this was originally part of the Prologue campaign. You get more units to play with and learn about upgrading your Great Hall to a stronghold to get more advanced units and upgrades. They probably felt the Prologue campaign was just going on for too long, so they cut it to just 2 chapters. Anyway, you get to this simple optional quest where you gather 2 items and bring them back to this fountain to have a fountain of healing. Just build up your forces and then attack the human base. I should quickly mention there is a little bit more complexity to units. Each unit's attack might have a specific type of damage. There's normal, piercing, magic, siege, hero, and chaos. Then you have different types of armor: unarmored, light, medium, heavy, fortified, and hero. I won't go too in depth, but just know certain attacks will deal extra damage or reduce damage depending on the armor type of the unit it's attacking. So catapults are best for destroying buildings, which is why I usually have about 2 or 3 when attacking a base. Always good to have a mix of units, but I usually have lots of ranged units since they deal the most damage. Destroy the enemy base and then suddenly an army of Murlocs show up and capture everyone. Thrall and his people get taken to a prison underground. In the next chapter, the troll in Thrall's cell says the Murlocs captured everyone to use as sacrifices to their sea witch, so Thrall casts his lightning spell to break out. We now play a dungeon crawler level. Free your orc brethren and search everywhere to find some cool items to make Thrall more powerful. Once you rescue everyone from their cells, you make it to the sacrificing room and watch Sen'jin sacrifice. Kill the Murlocs, then speak with Sen'jin, who tells you to save his people and get off this island. As they leave, the Sea Witch speaks to Thrall telepathically about how they won't escape so easily. The next chapter has Thrall getting to the surface and talks to the Sea Witch.
You'll have no more sacrifices today, witch. Go back to the depths where you belong.
Very well. Your choice is made. The air you breathe now will be your last.
Thrall gets back to the base, an orc raider explains the nearby volcano erupted and now the island is about to sink. Now you need to hold out for 20 minutes while they repair the ships. Just build units and defensive towers and hold the enemy back until the timer runs out. Really simple. But you can do the optional side quest of going out, getting some troll survivors to get some extra units. That's about it. Thrall and the orcs escape, the Sea Witch is angry, and says the dark tide is coming to consume them all. But we never see her again. Maybe in World of Warcraft she pops up? Anyway, that was it for the Prologue campaign. A good tutorial campaign to get any new player used to the controls and how to play the game, along with the main gameplay types: hold out, dungeon crawling, or destroy the enemy base. The next cinematic we watch has some beautiful shots of the Prophet flying around Azeroth. I imagine at the time this was a big deal and cool to see. Eventually he makes it to the capital city of Lordaeron. King Taranis and the ambassadors are discussing the orc threat, but then one ambassador demands all of them to listen about a plague that's coming from the Northlands. He suggests strict quarantine, but King Taranis says he will not allow that without proof. Then the Prophet transforms and tells them of the coming darkness.
Humanity is in peril. The tides of darkness have come again. and the whole world is poised upon the brink of war.
Enough of this!
He tries to tell them their only hope is to travel west, to Kalimdor. The king says they will decide what's best for protecting their people, when the prophet says,
I failed humanity once before, and I will not do so again.
he says if they won't listen, then he will find someone who will.
The warning has been given. Their fate is now their own.
The first chapter of the Human Campaign introduces us to Uther the Lightbringer and Prince Arthas. They're glad to see each other, and Arthas tells Uther they have reports of an orc encampment preparing to attack the nearby town of Strahnbrad. Uther says he will move quickly against the orc encampment while Arthas defends the town.
Meet me at the orc camp once you've saved the village.
You get control of Arthas and 4 footmen. Footmen are just your basic melee unit. First take Arthas to the neighboring village and get 2 more soldiers to fight for you. Then help a woman save her little Timmy from gnolls. The mob will give you a ring of protection which adds 1 armor to Arthas. I can't promise I will find every secret in this playthrough, but the YouTuber Ablehawk has a video that tries to find all of them. Follow the road and you'll come across some bandits stealing from a villager. Go after them and bring his ledger back to receive a tome of strength. Now you get to the village, but the attack has already begun. You'll find an orc slave master hauling some prisoners away, so go kill him to finish this chapter. Arthas gets thanked by some villagers and promises to bring back the ones that got taken. The knight comes and takes Arthas to Uther's camp. Overall, a good first chapter to teach people the basics in case they skip the prologue. Next chapter, Uther tells Arthas he sent 2 knights to parley with the orc leader, but only the horses return. Arthas angrily says they should just go in there and destroy them. Uther reminds Arthas they are paladins and should not let vengeance become who they are. Uther still decides to let Arthas lead the attack against the orcs. So now you get a mini tutorial regarding the human race and their base building. You can have as many workers building the same structure at the same time. Also, you'll need to build lots of farms. While that's going on, have Arthas go and do this side quest. Some dwarves are hunting black drakes. Just go to the nearby cave with the rifleman you just picked up and kill the dragon. Then bring its heart back and you'll get an orb of fire. This is great because not only does it increase your damage by 5, but Arthas' attacks also hurt nearby enemies. And he can now attack air units. Riflemen are great ranged attackers and deal a little bit more damage than footmen. Then you'll want to go over here and you get a Claws of Attack plus 3, and keep on going to some ogres and get a Gauntlets plus 3 of strength. Wow, these are some great items, and it's only the second chapter. Hopefully you have a barracks by now and get 6 footmen up. I mean, you could keep going and max out, but the only thing left to do is kill the orc leader, which he shows up and foreshadows to Uther that demons will start raining from the sky and this world will burn.
Yes, I've heard this rhetoric before. You orcs will never learn. It was only a mirror image. Damn it, what are these curs up to?
Then we watch the orc leader kill some villagers. You could do what I did and destroy the orc base, but there's nothing that drops, so go kill the orc leader. Uther celebrates their victory, but Arthas feels uneasy, since they sacrificed some people to try and summon demons. Uther says not to worry.
Have faith, lad. These orcs are trying to hold on to dying traditions. We defeated their demons a long time ago.
Overall, a good chapter for teaching you the basics of the human base building experience. We then get an interlude of the prophet in the city of Dalaran trying to convince Antonidas of the coming doom, but he doesn't believe him. The prophet leaves and Antonidas tells Jaina she can come out from hiding. They teleport somewhere and discuss the rumors of the plague spreading in the Northlands. Antonidas thinks it might be a magical kind of plague and needs Jaina to go investigate. The next chapter we meet up with Arthas and his captain.
Prince Arthas, we've been waiting here for hours. Are you sure this friend of yours is coming?
I'm sure. Jaina usually runs a little late.
Jaina takes out an ogre and scares off the other one. Jaina and Arthas are overjoyed to see each other again. They do have a lot of history, but to learn more you'll need to read the book Arthas, Rise of the Lich King. Jaina says their sources believe the plague originated in the nearby region. So you could start heading north, but instead go right and kill the ogres. At first you'll think this potion of healing is just a waste of time, but kill the nearby sheep and you'll get a bracer of agility. Moving along, the bridge was destroyed from the other side, so you'll need to go around. There is this villager that says,
"My lord, If this is about taxes, I can explain.
If you click him 50 times, he'll give you gold, another 50 times and you'll get a health potion. As you make your way through the village, some bandits begin attacking. After they're all dead, a lady will give you a greater healing potion. Then a villager will tell you there's a fountain with healing powers on the other side of the town. Keep killing all the murlocs you see and destroy this building to find a Maul of Strength +1. Then you find some footmen fighting skeleton archers. You'll learn that footmen have a special ability to lock their shields. This reduces piercing damage, but slows the footmen a little.
What were those creatures, Sergeant?
Undead, my lord. This whole village has gone mad.
Keep going through the town fighting skeletons and get to the fountain to heal your units. Then go south and they find the land around a granary looks to be dying. Now they worry the grain itself could be plagued. The crates carrying the plague came from Anderhall, which is the distribution center for the Northlands. Continue on and fight more undead. Then come across priests from Quel'Thalas. They're nice because they have a heal ability to keep your units alive. Then come across a mortar team firing at the undead. Moving on, they find this wizard telling his brethren to flee. Then he summons some skeletons and this abomination to hold Arthas and Jaina back so he can escape too.
That creature looks like it was sewn together from different corpses.
Let's study it after we kill it, okay?
It's easy to kill them and then destroy the warehouse. They discuss who was that wizard. Jaina believes it was a necromancer. They know the answers they seek will be at Anderhall. Overall, a fun chapter to run around and slowly watch the story unravel about this plague becoming a more serious problem. Next chapter, they see some cultists doing something to a gold mine. Arthas says to attack and scares them off. They decide to set up a base before going after them. This is where I discovered the AI is different from normal and hard difficulty. On normal, the enemy will just send units to attack whoever is closest to them, but on hard, the enemy will target specific units. Like here, once my mortar team began attacking a structure, they would beeline to my mortar team. So I carefully surrounded them to try and protect them while they kept firing at the enemy structures. It was a slow process, but eventually I destroyed the base. It's also a good idea to check out the east side of the map to get a Ring of Protection +2 and a gold mine if you need it. In the southeast corner, there is a clause +5. Moving into Anderhall, you'll speak with Kel'Thuzad again. Arthas asks if this plague was his doing. Kel'Thuzad says he ordered the Cult of the Damned to distribute the plagued grain, but he serves the Dreadlord Mal'Ganis.
He commands the Scourge that will cleanse this land and establish a paradise of eternal darkness.
He then tells them to seek Mal'Ganis out at the city of Stratholme. Then Kel'Thuzad flees. If you destroy this cage, a ghoul named Timmy starts running around. Killing him will drop a Ring of Superiority. You'll start to notice the name Timmy gets used a lot throughout Warcraft 3. Abelhawk explains this in his Easter egg video. Continue on and fight an army of abominations, then easily kill Kel'Thuzad. I wish they turned this into some kind of interesting boss fight, but no, he dies really quick. Overall, another fun chapter to get accustomed to base building and fighting another enemy base, then continuing to advance the story.
Naive fool. My death will make little difference in the long run. For now, the scourging of this land begins.
Next chapter, the two make it to the village of Hearthglen. Arthas notices they are preparing for battle. The captain tells him an undead army was marching throughout the night attacking villages at random, and now it's heading this way. Arthas sends Jaina to go and tell Uther what's happened and send for reinforcements. Arthas then discovers some crates. The captain tells him it was a grain shipment from Anderhall and has already been distributed amongst the villagers.
Oh no. The plague was never meant to simply kill my people. It was meant to turn them into the undead. Defend yourselves!
So now you just need to hold out for 30 minutes. Firstly, you can destroy this building in the corner to get a potion of restoration. Also, the items Jaina was carrying gets dropped, so you can swap them if you want. Make sure to get those upgrades researched and get plenty of workers chopping down trees. Build lots of defensive towers and just wait for the enemy attack waves. You do get the sorceress that casts the slow spell, which is nice at slowing both the movement speed and attack speed of enemies. At 21 minutes, an undead caravan will start making its way to all the villages and turn its people into the undead. As long as you destroy it before it gets to the last village, you'll collect a nice item called Medallion of Courage. But you need to leave your base, and that can be tricky if you don't know when the next attack wave is coming. So try to destroy it quick and hurry back to your base. Or use the town portal item that drops from the caravan. Continue to hold out until the timer expires. The cutscene shows Arthas being overrun when Uther arrives just in time with his knights.
Uther, your timing couldn't have been better.
Don't celebrate yet, son. This battle's far from over.
Uther is proud of Arthas for holding out as long as he did, but Arthas interrupts and wishes he had a legion of knights helping him so he could have done a better job. But Uther tries to tell him to not be choking on pride and make him realize this was only the beginning. Arthas then says he has to strike at their leader, so he decides to go straight to Stratholme and kill Mal'Ganis himself. Overall, I enjoyed this chapter and the thrill of it. I was always on edge trying to figure out how to make my defenses stronger. Then the enemy would come and do something to destroy most of what I had, and then I had to consider to reload or just push forward.
Then feel free to tag along, Uther. I'm going, with or without you.
Next chapter is the infamous event in Warcraft history, the Culling of Stratholme. Uther arrives, but you can tell there's some tension between the two. They discover the people have already been infected and will soon turn into the undead. Arthas then orders this entire city must be purged. Uther says there must be some other way, but Arthas gives him the order to purge the city. However, Uther says Arthas is not the king yet, nor would he obey that command even if he was.
Then I must consider this an act of treason.
Treason? Have you lost your mind, Arthas?
Arthas, you can't just...
It's done. Those of you who have the will to save this land, follow me. The rest of you, get out of my sight.
You've just crossed a terrible threshold, Arthas.
Jaina?
I'm sorry, Arthas. I can't watch you do this.
This chapter, you finally get knights, who are strong and tanky melee units. The layout of this map was redone. It's kinda sad because it makes the city seem a lot smaller. Blizzard said they were trying to make it look more like how it is in World of Warcraft, but the old map felt like this city was gigantic and we only got to see a small portion of it. Anyway, about 2 minutes into the mission, Mal'Ganis will appear and start taking villagers. You will need to kill 100 villagers before he takes 100 villagers. On hard, I thought this was almost impossible. For starters, Mal'Ganis is level 8. If you manage to kill him, he will drop some really good random loot. However, undead will attack your base from both sides, so it does become tricky and tough to attack and defend. Mal'Ganis will respawn after a minute and a half. I tried my best to amass an army, but Mal'Ganis will always create a bigger and stronger army than you. Then it dawned on me, I don't need to fight him. I just need to split my forces into 2 armies and have them attack different areas of the city. Yeah, I felt dumb when I realized this, and suddenly this chapter became easy. Afterward, Arthas confronts Mal'Ganis and says they're going to end things here. But Mal'Ganis says his journey has just begun, then tells him to gather his forces and come meet him in Northrend. Overall, like I said, I thought this was impossible, but that was because I was trying to do what you first assume you need to do, but once you think of something else you could do in this chapter, it can become very easy to figure out.
I'll hunt you to the ends of the earth if I have to. Do you hear me? To the ends of the earth!
In the interlude, you get to see the aftermath of what Arthas had done. Jaina can't believe Arthas did this. Then Uther shows up asking where Arthas took the fleet. She hesitates, but tells him he's gone to Northrend. Uther says he needs to tell King Taranis about what has happened. After Uther leaves, Jaina is then approached by the Prophet. He says it now falls to her to lead what people she can west to Kalimdor. Next chapter is Arthas arriving in Northrend, and despite his captain making small talk, Arthas gets straight to the point and asks if all his forces are accounted for. While the captain tries to explain that only a few ships made it, Arthas immediately interrupts and says,
Very well. Our first priority is to set up a base camp with proper defenses. There's no telling what's waiting for us out there in the shadows.
You begin looking for a gold mine, and I would suggest to wait before fighting these Nerubian spiders. Follow the path east and you'll come across a gold mine, but suddenly get ambushed. You meet Muradin Bronzebeard, who is surprised to see Arthas would be the one to come rescue him. Arthas and Muradin also have history, which is explained in the same book. Anyway, Muradin asks for his help to rescue his fellow dwarves getting attacked by the undead. Take the new forces you got and go kill those Nerubians to grab an orb of frost. Now begin building up your base. Then go destroy the purple undead base to rescue the dwarves. You do get flying machines who are great for fighting air units. Then go destroy the green undead base to win. I just used the same strategy of mortar teams attacking from range and having lots of riflemen to protect them. After that, Arthas asks why Muradin is here. He says they came looking for a waygate that transports them to a hidden vault where a rune blade called Frostmourne lies. The closer they got to finding the waygate, the more undead they encountered. Then the captain shows up and says they haven't found any trace of Mal'Ganis.
No matter. He can't hide from me forever.
Overall, this was a simple and straightforward chapter. Honestly, I found it to be pretty easy even on hard. Next chapter starts with an emissary arriving and telling the captain everyone must return to Lordaeron. The road back to their ships is held by the undead, so they will need to find another route. The captain then decides they will cut their way through the woods. Arthas and Muradin return and ask why the guards aren't at their posts. The captain lets him know Uther convinced the king to have his troops recalled. You can really see Arthas' descent into madness.
Uther had my troops recalled? Damn it! If my warriors abandon me, I'll never defeat Mal'Ganis. The ships must be burned before the men reach the shore.
Isn't that a bit much, lad?
Burned down to their frames. No one goes home until our job here is done.
He's so devoted to killing Mal'Ganis that he resorts to lying and dooming his own men to achieve his goal. This chapter involves coming across mercenary shops and buying some units for help. Just follow the path and destroy the ships as you go. Not much to say except this one part where it looks like you need to run through here and take lots of damage from these spirit towers, but you just need a teleporter item. Have Arthas use his divine shield and run through the gauntlet without taking damage, then teleport the rest of your units to him. Destroy the last ship to win. The army finishes cutting through the forest. Arthas then says the mercenaries are the ones that destroyed their ships. His men slaughter all the mercenaries, and now without a way home, they return to base and continue with their mission hunting Mal'Ganis. Overall, it was a unique spin on the dungeon crawling gameplay where you get to choose what units come with you. In the final chapter of the Human Campaign, Muradin confronts Arthas and asks what has happened to him after watching him lie to his men and betray the mercenaries that fought for him.
Is vengeance all as important to you?
Oh, spare me, Muradin. You weren't there to see what Mal'Ganis did to my homeland.
Then Mal'Ganis appears along with an army. Muradin says this looks bad as they are completely surrounded. However, they did find the waygate, and so Arthas and Muradin take some knights and riflemen to look for Frostmourne. So while you have Arthas and Muradin looking for the vault, you'll also need to make sure you fight off the enemies attacking your base. You do get Griffin Riders, but I didn't really use them. Eventually you run into the Guardian of the Vault. Take him down, and he still tells Arthas to turn away before it's too late.
Still trying to protect the sword, are you?
No. Trying to protect you from it.
They approach the sword, but Muradin reads the inscription and learns the blade is cursed. Arthas says he will bear any curse if it allows him to save his homeland. Muradin tries to reason with him, but...
Damn the men! Nothing shall prevent me from having my revenge, old friend. Not even you. Now, I call out to the spirits of this place. I will give anything or pay any price, if only you will help me save my people.
This looked like Muradin was killed, but spoiler alert, he survives and was only knocked out. Then we see Arthas wielding Frostmourne, but looks cold and almost undead-like. All that really changed with his damage type, which is now Chaos, so he will deal full damage to any type of armor. I researched everything and then decided to destroy the purple base first, that way I don't have 2 attack waves to worry about. Then I tried to attack the green base, but fail. So I decided to try and build a forward base with lots of guard towers to help support the assault. And that worked out so much better. Overall, it was a great way to end the campaign. Story-wise, you got to see Arthas descend into madness and become a villain. Gameplay-wise, it's a simple go destroy the enemy base, but I actually had a tough time doing so, which means I had to get a little creative. The final cutscene, Mal'Ganis says everything Arthas has done is what the Dark Lord said he would.
You hear the voice of the Dark Lord. He whispers to you through the blade you wield. What does he say, young human? What does the Dark Lord of the Dead tell you now?
He tells me that the time for my vengeance has come.
What? He can't possibly mean to...
It is finished.
Arthas then walks off into the frozen wastelands. He continued to listen to the voice of Frostmourne and lost what was left of his sanity. Now he's decided to return home to Lordaeron and claim his just reward. The cinematic is of Arthas returning home, and I didn't notice this the first time, but I think this was to show the flower petal was beginning to die after touching Arthas. He storms into the throne room and bows to his father, then whispers to himself,
"And you no longer need to sacrifice for your people. You no longer need to bear the weight of your crown. I've taken care of everything."
He rises to his feet and walks up to the throne and kills his father. So overall, the human campaign is great. Each chapter was still worth playing through, and I still remember each one and always have a blast. They did a great job telling this anti-hero story.
This kingdom shall fall, and from the ashes shall arise a new order that will shake the very foundations of the world.
The first chapter of the Undead Campaign says with the death of King Tyrannus, the forces of Lordaeron were scattered throughout the land by the undead. We see a red dreadlord cast a spell and then see Arthas as a death knight with his horse Invincible. Again, they go into more detail in the book. He thinks it's Mal'Ganis, but actually a dreadlord named Tychondrius. He congratulates Arthas on his betrayal and delivering this land to the Scourge. The Lich King is pleased.
Yes, I've damned everyone and everything I've ever loved in his name. And I still feel no remorse, no shame, no pity.
Tychondrius mentions the rune blade was created to steal souls, and Arthas' soul was the first one it claimed. Then tells Arthas his first mission. He needs to rally the cult of the damned that's hiding amongst the populace. It's a straightforward chapter. Take Arthas and his ghouls around the map and search for glowing peasants to find enough acolytes. You can fight some of the patrols, but it's best to wait until you get to the graveyard to get more forces. Then you can go and take out this barracks, kill the horses, to get a ring of protection +2. There's also this bandit camp that drops a spider ring. The Shade is nice because he's invisible and can scout the area first. Ghouls are nice because they can eat a corpse after combat and get their health back. Arthas has similar abilities to the paladin. Find all 24 acolytes and you win. Overall, it's an easy first chapter to get a feel for the undead. Next chapter introduces you to meat wagons. They serve as the siege unit for the undead. You start off with 3 of them and some ghouls. You can attack enemy units with them, but they deal splash damage so you can hurt your own melee forces. Of course, they set it up to use them in order to take out the guard towers. Then fight your first paladin. It's not a big deal, except using your meat wagons causes the foot soldiers to attack them. Once the paladin is dead, you can go to the graveyard and retrieve Kel'Thuzad's remains.
Told you, my death would mean little.
Then Tychondrius teleports in and mentions Quel'Tha loss. Only the power of the Elves' Sunwell can bring Kel'Thuzad back to life. Before they can begin that journey, they must steal a special urn from the paladins to place Kel'Thuzad's remains into. Now we get taught how the undead base building works. First you need a necropolis to create blighted ground, which is like the Zerg in StarCraft. Then begin construction of a haunted gold mine. Once it finishes, place 5 acolytes to begin harvesting the gold. Build a crypt to build more ghouls to harvest lumber. Also, building a graveyard will work as a place for ghouls to drop off wood. It also upgrades your army and provides fresh corpses to use. Also keep in mind the meat wagons can carry corpses. Build ziggurats to increase your food cap. You can also upgrade them to spirit towers for defense. First thing you should do is to go take out this rock golem behind your base to get a pendant of energy. You can keep going into the town to find Tichondrius feeding on people's souls. Watch out for the attack waves, but with enough spirit towers, it's rarely a big deal. Eventually you can move out with an army and push the enemy back. Each base has a paladin you need to defeat. There's also this secret Pandaren relaxation area. Also some Sasquatches to kill and get Claws of Attack +5. When you encounter Uther, he tells Arthas about his father ruling this kingdom for 70 years and how he ruined it in a matter of days. Arthas demands the urn he carries.
The urn holds your father's ashes, Arthas. What? Were you hoping to piss on them one last time before you left his kingdom to rot?
Uther was surprisingly easy to kill, even for a level 10 paladin. Uther says he hopes there's a special place in hell waiting for Arthas, but Arthas says they may never know because he intends to live forever. Pick up the urn to complete the chapter. Tichondrius appears and compliments Arthas and says they can begin their journey to the High Elf Kingdom. Kel'Thuzad whispers to Arthas to tell him nothing. The Dreadlords can't be trusted because they are the Lich King's jailers. He will explain everything once he's back to life. Overall, a great chapter for beginning to teach players how the undead building works. We get an interlude of Tichondrius meeting up with two other Dreadlords in the Twisting Nether. They say their Lord Archimonde demands a report on the Scourge. Tichondrius reports the Scourge is performing well, but almost too well. He's getting suspicious Ner'zhul, aka the Lich King, has other plans for his new champion, Arthas. One Dreadlord thinks it doesn't matter. Ner'zhul wouldn't dare undermine their efforts now. The other Dreadlord just wants the Scourge to do what it was created to do, otherwise Archimonde will have them killed if they can't keep control of the situation. Tichondrius is sure the Lich King nor any of his undead lackeys will jeopardize the Legion's return.
See that they do not. Lord Archimonde has little patience for failure.
Next chapter, Arthas begins their invasion into Quel'Thalas. First he talks to an elf and asks where the entrance is. The elf says the woods themselves protect their borders and their enchanted elf gates protect the capital. Arthas uses his meat wagons to make their own entrance. You clear out a small base, and now you have access to necromancers. These are probably my favorite unit in the undead army. What's great about them is they create two skeletons from a corpse that lasts about a minute. It's great both gameplay-wise and thematically for the undead. As you kill enemy units, the necromancer will raise them from the dead to fight on your side. It works great for defense if you know the enemy is coming. Then just have your necromancers by your graveyard and raise a quick army to defend. I also use it for offense. Send in the skeletons first to take most of the damage, then bring up the rest of my army and start slaying enemies. Then my necromancers can raise them and keep the swarm going. They also have a great ability to increase a unit's attack speed by 75%, but that unit loses health during that time. I only ever used it on Arthas, so build up your base and have your meat wagons destroy some trees to look around and kill wildlife to grab some useful items. You also get to meet Sylvanas Windrunner. She will be the main hero for Arthas to deal with during this siege of Silvermoon. There's 3 paths you can take, but I like to start with the right side to take out all the bases. It's fun to watch your swarms of undead overwhelm the enemy. The last base took me a while because they had quite the force and always built a strong enough force to repel me. So I built up a forward base and built spirit towers to take them out quickly, then sent my force in. I did my best to get my meat wagons to destroy their structures, while also killing all their workers so they can't rebuild. Eventually I defeat them. The first gate gets destroyed, so Sylvanas has to order her troops to retreat to the second gate. Overall, this is one of my favorite chapters to play. It's simple and only have like 3 units to worry about, as well as playing on hard offers a great challenge to beat. It never felt impossible, you just really had to work at it. The next chapter, Arthas continues pushing the elves back. They get to a bridge and Sylvanas says Arthas won't get past this gate because it can only be opened with a special key. She destroys the bridge, so Arthas will need to find another way to cross the river. The Nerubians are the new unit for this chapter. They are ranged units with the ability to trap flying units and bring them to the ground for melee units to attack. These units are great to have a lot of. Same strategy as before, having necromancers for creating skeletons as a front line, then having Nerubians as a ranged back line. While your base is being built, you run to the right side and find a goblin observatory in order to build zeppelins. These will transport your forces over land and sea. Glad they don't take up any food. Once you have your forces built, just transport them to the other side. You'll find an altar of kings, and once it's destroyed, part of a key can be picked up. So now you can build structures on the other side of the river because now you have access to these gateways to get where you need to go. Once again, build up my forces, then spam lots of skeletons and send them in first, followed by Nerubians and meat wagons. Destroy the other 2 bases and get the keys. Then transport over to the top right corner of the map and get Arthas to the front of the gate to unlock it. Overall, another one of my favorite chapters. Simple, but again, think creatively to beat each base and overwhelm the enemy with skeletons.
Damn you monsters. What will it take to drive you back?
The Ranger woman is starting to vex me greatly.
Next chapter has Tichondrius complimenting Arthas. He warns Arthas this will be a true test for him. The elves will not give up the Sunwell easily. The design of this map has changed quite a lot from the original. The main concept is still the same. There's a base that will send a runner to Silvermoon. If you let the runner make it, then I'm guessing the elves will send more units to attack your base. The new unit is Gargoyles, which are nice for flying around and killing the runners. Sylvanas will attack your base with a small force. Sylvanas will run away when her health gets too low. Blue base will also send a force to attack you. First thing I do is destroy the blue base to stop the runners. Then when you get to the front gate, Sylvanas says she will make her final stand here. She's pretty easy to kill, and then demands Arthas to finish her. But Arthas decides to torment her even more by turning her into a banshee. She's now a second hero for you to control. She has some pretty nice utility abilities, like a silence and attack reduction for enemies. You push through the city taking out hero mages. Then you get to fight the King of Silvermoon for a bit, but then he retreats. Arthas comes across a river, but uses Frostmourne to make a bridge? Wait, Arthas, you could do that this whole time? Why not have used that power last chapter? Anyway, cross the bridge and kill the king to win. Arthas then announces to the elves that their entire race and ancient heritage has come to an end. Then places Kel'Thuzad's remains into the fountain.
As promised, the Lich King has granted me eternal life.
Arthas then asks Kel'Thuzad if he's ready to tell him about the Dreadlords. Kel'Thuzad says he will, but not here. Overall, I didn't think this chapter was bad, I just wish there was more to it. It felt straightforward and easy. I prefer the old version because I remember it being a challenge to break into the city and take out Silvermoon. Here it just feels like the undead get to walk freely in and take out a few groups of enemies, so it's a little underwhelming. We get an interlude of Arthas and Kel'Thuzad first talking about their last encounter from the human campaign. Arthas asks if he's still upset about killing him, but Kel'Thuzad says the Lich King told him how their encounter would end.
The Lich King knew that I would kill you?
Of course. He chose you to be his champion long before the Scourge even began.
Then Arthas asks about how the Dreadlords are able to control the Lich King. Kel'Thuzad says the Dreadlords are agents working for the ones who created the Lich King.
The fiery lords of the Burning Legion.
What is this legion?
It's a demonic army that's claimed countless worlds, and now it comes to consume this world. Kel'Thuzad doesn't say this, but let me summarize the Warcraft lore here. The Burning Legion tried conquering Azeroth 10,000 years ago but failed, so this time the Burning Legion created the Lich King to try and pave the way for its arrival. The Dreadlords were sent to make sure the Lich King succeeded. In the next chapter, Kel'Thuzad reveals to Arthas what the next phase of the plan is. They need to summon the Demon Lord Archimonde, who will spark the invasion. But first they need to destroy the nearby encampment of Blackrock orcs in order to get to the Demon Gate and speak with Archimonde and receive his instructions. This chapter can be quite annoying. You're in the middle of the map and have to deal with 5 orc bases. The first attack is from a green orc group who doesn't have a base, just these units. The orc says they are the true servants of the Burning Legion, implying that the orcs were working for the Burning Legion way back during the first war between orcs and humans. Each orc base is a little distinct from the others. The main red base has powerful dragons. The light blue base has goblin demolitionists who blow up and will kill most things, especially buildings. The brown base has ogres and ogre magi. They can cast bloodlust, which increases their unit's attack speed and movement speed. Orange has warlocks that have an ability that stuns, which is really annoying. And blue base never attacked me, but it looked like they had a focus on trolls who throw axes. Each orc hero will drop a tome for either hero to take. I recommend only giving them to Arthas because Kel'Thuzad won't be playable in the final chapter. You do get the mighty Frostworm. They have a powerful ability to disable buildings while they're attacking it. It took me a while to destroy all the orc bases. Sometimes I would be in the middle of attacking one base, then get attacked by another at the same time. Keep in mind, I was making it harder on myself by staying in the no upkeep limit. Eventually I did push to 80 supply in order to destroy the red base. Kel'Thuzad calls for Archimonde and he appears. They ask what they need to do next in order to summon him to their world. He says they need to go and get the only remaining spellbook of Medivh from the city of Dalaran. Overall, despite this chapter being really hard, especially when Red sends their dragons to attack my base, which is complete bullshit, I still did like the challenge. Also, remember to make sure to grab the Sobi mask south of your base. The mana regen is really nice to have, so I think for most people it's going to be a love it or hate it chapter. Next chapter, Arthas and Kel'Thuzad arrive at Dalaran and demand the wizards of the Kirin Tor to surrender to the Scourge. Antonidas teleports in front of them and says he and his brethren have been preparing for the undead. He activates an aura around Dalaran that will harm any undead that enter. You now get abominations. They are big, tanky brutes, great for front lines, and they can consume a corpse to heal up faster after combat. You mainly use these guys when running into the aura, but the mage is pretty close by so you can just kill him and end the aura quickly. Then move into the city and find these secret wizards for items and tomes to make Arthas more powerful. You also get golems to assist you. Keep pushing and destroy the bases along the way. Make sure to grab this Bladebane armor item, because it gives a lot of armor and shares some of it to nearby allies. Gonna be great for the next chapter. Eventually you make it to Antonidas, and just need to focus him down while fighting water elementals. Kel'Thuzad grabs the book and says he will begin summoning Archimonde at sunset. In the final chapter of the Undead Campaign, Arthas asks if Kel'Thuzad is ready to begin. He says he is amazed how much knowledge Medivh had on demons and must have been far more powerful than anyone realized. Then Tichondrius teleports in and says Medivh was clearly not powerful enough to escape death. What Tichondrius meant by that is Medivh was the one who brought the orcs into this world. And since we know the orcs were servants of the Burning Legion, he clearly failed in his mission, so they are now going to finish what he started. It's a holdout map, so just survive for 30 minutes. I know, that's easier said than done. So get those upgrades going ASAP. Also get 5 extra acolytes to this gold mine so you can have extra income. You're gonna need it. Make sure you are slowly building more towers over the course of the game for extra defenses. You might need to save the game a lot and get used to the enemy's pattern. One thing I did was build 2 graveyards here and had 5 necromancers ready for a quick army to stop the next incoming army until I could get my main forces over there to take them out. Most of my army contained Nerubians and abominations. You'll get some Fellhounds during the game to use and later get 4 Infernals. In the final minute, the enemy sends a massive continuous wave of units that you can only slow down. I was able to hold them back long enough for the timer to expire. Kel'Thuzad finishes the spell and brings Archimonde into Azeroth.
Tremble, mortals, and despair. Doom has come to this world.
Archimonde thanks Kel'Thuzad. Then Tichondrius shows up and says all preparations have been made. Archimonde suddenly gives control over the Scourge to the Dreadlords, since he has no further use of the Lich King. Archimonde will soon order for the invasion to begin, but first he wants to make an example of the Wizards of Dalaran by crushing the city into ashes. After they leave, Arthas wonders what will happen to them now.
Be patient, young Death Knight. The Lich King foresaw this as well. You may yet have a part to play in his grand design.
Overall, I enjoyed the challenge of this chapter. I can see this being difficult for other people who aren't prepared or think of some creative strategies. Not a favorite, but I still enjoy it. The cinematic is pretty cool. Archimonde is preparing a spell and speaking in some kind of riddle as well as in some other language. Then creates the city of Dalaran in the sand, and we see when he crushes one of the towers, in real life it collapses. So he grabs all of them to destroy the city of Dalaran. Unfortunately, we don't get to see it, but still, this shows just how powerful Archimonde is. Overall, I still really like the Undead Campaign. It's my favorite. It's well designed and every chapter is unique and fun to play. The story is also great, continuing to follow Arthas and becoming more of a villain, and we get to help him succeed at that, only for him to seemingly lose all that power once his job is complete. But there seems to be hope for him in the final moments. In the first chapter of the Orc Campaign, Thrall and the Horde land on the shores of Kalimdor. You explore around collecting items and finding more orcs and trolls along the coast. What's tough about the orcs is they only ever have one unit that heals them, but you don't unlock them until later in the game. So more than ever, you really need to pay close attention and keep your units alive. Later, Thrall sees an army of Centaur heading north, then meets a Tauren chieftain named Cairn Bloodhoof. Thrall tells him they've come seeking their destiny. Then Cairn says they should seek out the Oracle in the north to know what their destiny is. Thrall then tells him they saw an army of Centaur heading north.
What? No. My village is in danger.
I know it sounds like you need to hurry and help Cairn, but you don't. You can keep heading south and search around for more loot. Not much to find, but they still could be useful. Then follow Cairn to his village and fight all the waves of the Centaur. Cairn thanks Thrall and says his people are moving to a new land called Mulgore. Thrall offers to help escort them to Mulgore. Overall, it's a decent first chapter. It's trying to give you that feeling of the orcs again, assuming you played through the prologue. Next chapter, Thrall talks with Cairn about how beautiful and rough this land is, which reminds him a lot of the orcs' homeland of Draenor. This chapter has you slowly advancing a caravan to the end. I don't recommend going in here because there ended up only being a potion of mana and a scroll of healing, and then I lost too many units for nothing, so I reloaded. Keep moving and get to the first oasis. The caravan will get attacked from the front and behind, so be ready to help Cairn. Just 2 out of the 4 Kodos need to survive. You get some more units who say they are from Hellscream searching for you. Heal up at the fountain, then continue on. There are some areas off the path you can check and see if they have useful items. Get to this merchant shop and you'll run into 3 raiders. Their damage type is siege, so they're mainly used for attacking buildings. However, they have a special ability to use a net to bring air units down. Destroy this harpy building to get a +3 intel for Thrall, which is his main stat. Get to the second oasis and you get demolishers. They're nice for the guard towers up ahead. There is a centaur champion in the northeast, but he's really tough and sadly only drops an item to increase your mana capacity. Then make it to the final oasis. The centaur are beginning their final charge when Cairn stops and seals off the canyon. Then Cairn says goodbye and tells Thrall he can find the Oracle inside Stone Talon Peak, along with giving him Kodos to use in the Horde. Overall, it's an interesting chapter. I wish there was more challenging options during the escort. Like, there's 3 powerful bosses you could fight, but will get most of your units killed. However, Thrall will have a powerful item for the rest of the game, so you have the option of which powerful item do you want, but won't have enough forces to take all of them. We get an interlude and head back to Lordaeron and watch the Burning Legion begin its invasion. Tichondrius teleports in and meets with a pit lord named Manaroth. He asks how the invasion is going.
Bah! These frail humans offer no real resistance.
Tichondrius then gives credit to the Scourge and says it did a good job, unlike others he could name. He's referring to the orcs, which makes Manaroth angry since he knows he's being mocked. Manaroth gave his blood to the orcs way back on Draenor to make them more powerful, but more importantly control over them, and use them to take over Azeroth, but obviously they failed. So Manaroth says he will find them and discipline them. That's when Tichondrius tells him the orcs are no longer here, and sailed to Kalimdor. Then Archimonde teleports in and says they will watch the orcs and wait. They could still prove useful to them. Next chapter, a grunt says they've been traveling for over a week and only fighting centaurs and pigmen. He wants to fight real enemies to test their strength. Thrall tells him they must push on and get to the Oracle. Then they come across the Warsong clan fighting a human base. It's an easy fight, but takes a long time, so it's a good idea to have your peons begin building a base while you wait. Thrall asks about the humans. Hellscream says they got here the same way as they did. A frail girl named Proudmoore leads them. Obviously, this is Jaina. He then says her forces are blocking the pass that leads to the north. So while Thrall builds his base, he sends out scouts to find another way over the pass. He also says the humans are not to be touched.
Whatever you say, War Chief.
Kodo beasts are nice to have at least one in your army since they give off an aura that increases all damage. They also have an ability to devour a unit. Over time, the unit will die inside the Kodo. If the Kodo dies, then the unit is released. Once your Great Hall is built, a headhunter reports there's a goblin observatory to the north. Thrall says the plan is to buy zeppelins from there so they can fly over the pass. After a while, Hellscream and some of his forces will attack human bases. The humans will now send attack forces at you. The best strategy to do is to have Thrall lead them to the Warsong base and let them deal with the attack force. You now have the option to destroy each human base, or just make a mad dash to the observatory, but it is guarded, so that may not be the best idea. I built up a force, then waited for Hellscream to attack, and then joined in with him. I did have a few close calls with an attack wave getting to my base. Sometimes the AI was actually being smart and not following Thrall. Eventually I destroyed all 4 bases, then sent a force to attack the Harpies guarding the observatory. Hellscream thinks a true orc would just attack and take the pass themselves. Thrall demands to know why his clan disobeyed him. Hellscream thinks the humans deserve death, and asks if Thrall can feel it, probably meaning the rage or bloodlust they felt back in the old days when the demons had control over them. Thrall says he can't have his clan come along, so sends them to the northern forest to build a settlement. Overall, this is one of my favorite chapters. It feels like an old school RTS. Build up and destroy the enemy base, or in this case destroy 4 enemy bases. Plus you get an ally to assist you on this map. In the next chapter, Hellscream is upset that Thrall didn't let his clan come with them. A grunt feels uneasy, like they're being watched. Hellscream tells them to get back to work because they are going to need a lot of lumber. And that's the main objective, get 15,000 wood. You now have shamans, which are nice units to have. They have a purge ability to slow and dispel both positive and negative buffs. When you move out, you'll need to build a base around this mine. Then head to your right and meet with a goblin for an optional quest.
If you kill the chieftain, we'll sell our goods to you at cost.
Then return and you can buy shredders who are awesome at cutting down trees. There are a few trees of life scattered around the map that if destroyed will give you 3,000 lumber. Always have raiders with you because the night elves send flying units to attack. That's right, we finally get to fight the night elf race. You could go destroy their bases, but you don't need to. Just buy those shredders and get that lumber as quickly as possible to win. Overall, I still like this chapter. It has its challenges, and you need to remember the more lumber you spend, the longer the game goes on. We get another interlude, this time somewhere in Ashenvale. Tichondrius and Manaroth come across a fountain. Manaroth first talks about remembering Ashenvale Forest, the home of the Night Elves that defeated the Burning Legion 10,000 years ago. He also remembers the Night Elf demigod Cenarius lives here. Tichondrius says Archimonde wants Cenarius dead before the Legion invades Kalimdor. Then mentions the orcs have incurred his wrath by cutting down most of the forest. Manaroth thinks they would have little chance against him. Tichondrius tells Manaroth to spill his blood into the fountain, so the orcs can be lured to it and recharge their demonic energies. That way they can defeat Cenarius for them. In the next chapter, Cenarius begins attacking your 3 outer bases, so it's best to grab everyone you can and have them head to your base. I do recommend researching some upgrades before the buildings get destroyed. Don't try to defend. Cenarius has divine armor, which you will barely deal any damage to him. After all 3 bases are destroyed, he will first restore all the trees where they belong. Then he sends a big attack wave at you. Take them out, and a witch doctor will tell Hellscream he senses a dark power nearby that might be the key to defeating Cenarius. It's tough to time, trying to send an army to the fountain and defend your base from attack waves. At least now your shamans have bloodlust and witch doctors have healing wards. This is really nice to have to quickly heal your units or to keep them alive in combat. And yes, you can stack these for even more healing. Bloodlust is great for the attack speed and movement speed. Always have at least 1 or 2 shamans in every army. Head north and kill all the enemies in your path. Hellscream gets to the fountain, but the witch doctor says the fountain smells of a demon. Hellscream says if this fountain will help him defeat Cenarius, then he will drink from it. An orc tries to speak up and says no. That goes against everything Thrall has taught them about controlling their rage. They can't ever let it overcome them again. Hellscream says they must do it so they can become the vessels of destruction they were meant to be.
Yes! I feel the power once again. Come, my warriors. Drink from the dark waters, and you will be reborn.
Now we have access to Fel Orc units. Instead of shamans, they are warlocks now with new abilities, including that annoying stun. Build up a force of just Fel Orcs and then attack the bases. Cenarius will appear at some point, so you can just focus him down to win.
The demigod has fallen. The Warsong is supreme.
Hellscream runs into Manaroth in the forest. He tells him it's time for him and his brethren to rejoin the Burning Legion. Hellscream says no, they are free, but Manaroth says he is the rage in their heart and some other things, but point is Manaroth has control over his clan now. Overall, this is another great chapter. The best part is allowing you to play with fell orcs, and it certainly wasn't easy with the large number of units the Night Elves send at you.
No, we are free. Stupid, pitiful creature.
Next chapter, a Zeppelin scouts around and gets attacked by humans. The raider reports to Thrall about the human activity. Then Cairn shows up to offer assistance. Now we get access to the mighty Tauren. They are tanky and deal some good damage. Definitely get their upgrade for a chance to do extra damage and hit enemies near them. When you move out, Cairn notices some Wyvern getting captured. If you can defeat the Harpies, you'll get access to the Wyvern Riders. However, there's 2 human bases that send some strong attack waves. At least there is a fountain of healing near your base. Just need to go kill this centaur and bring an item back to restore it. Once you have an army up, go destroy the light blue base. Then max out your cab, go get the wyverns, then get zeppelins to drop off your troops at the summit and destroy the blue base. Thrall and Cairn watch Jaina and her troops go into the cave. Cairn says to watch out for an ambush, but Thrall mentions he was raised by humans and knows their tricks. Overall, this was a tough chapter that took me over an hour to complete. Sometimes Blue would send Griffin riders that did massive damage, but I still had fun with it. Next chapter, Thrall and Cairn must split up, so you start with Thrall and some orcs. It's a dungeon crawler chapter, and it was tough. Thrall got all of his forces killed, so I had to carefully keep pushing forward. There are some good items on this chapter like this Crown of Kings, which gives all of your stats plus 5, so look around carefully. Thrall does later find a lot of hunters in a cell, so at least he has some backup again. Grab this heart from this dragon and bring it back here. Then we get control of Cairn, who also can find some good items if you look carefully. One such item players may not know about because they may just activate the trap and kill all these enemies. If you do that, then the item won't drop. So if you unlock the door and then kill them normally, you get a necklace of spell immunity, which will be great for the next chapter. There's also this hungry lizard eating mushrooms. Come back later and it will eat its way through for you to find this armor item. There's also this clause of attack plus 12. Bring it all over to trade with Thrall and then cross the bridge to run into Jaina. She wants to fight, but the prophet speaks up and says there will be no violence here. Thrall demands to know what's going on. The prophet tells him this is Jaina, leader of the survivors of Lordaeron. Thrall is surprised to hear survivors, but the prophet then tells him the invasion has begun. Lordaeron has already fallen and now the Burning Legion is coming to invade Kalimdor. They must unite if they are to have any chance of saving this world. Jaina thinks this is crazy, but the prophet makes it clear that the greater threat right now is the Burning Legion. They must settle old hatreds and help each other. Then tells Thrall that Hellscream is already under the demon's control.
No, I'll die before I let that happen.
Overall, I didn't really like this dungeon crawler. However, there were a lot of great items to collect.
For the fate of all who live, humanity must join forces with the Horde.
The final chapter of the Orc Campaign starts with Cairn, Thrall, and Jaina discussing their plan. Thrall is uneasy about fighting his own people, but Jaina reminds him that with this soul gem they can capture Hellscream without hurting him, then bring him back to the Circle of Power to release him from the demon's control. I first tried to cheese it by having Thrall run straight to Hellscream and capture him, then tried to get him out but was unsuccessful. I think it is possible, but I didn't want to keep trying and have this playthrough end on such a cheesy note. So I restarted and tried to do it in a more legitimate way. I had Thrall and Cairn focus on defense when the Infernals show up. The Demolishers seem to do the most damage to Infernals, so keep that in mind when fighting them. Once I had an army, I sent it to the right side of the base and kept attacking. Once my army cleared a path to Hellscream, I sent Thrall in to capture him. They have a short conversation where Hellscream reveals that back on Draenor, he was the reason his entire race drank Manaroth's blood knowingly. I think they should have at least had you get Hellscream to 50% health to capture him, like you need to weaken his body and spirit in order to capture him. Anyway, run back to watch the priests and shamans turn Hellscream back to his green color. He apologizes, but Thrall says,
"To hell with your apologies! Right now, I need you to help me save our people. Manaroth. We must face Manaroth in the canyon."
Overall, I thought this chapter would be almost impossible, but it's great when you figure out a strategy that works and gets you the victory, so I would say it's a great chapter. This cinematic is my favorite. It also sounds like they did a few sound effect changes like Thrall's yell. Thrall and Hellscream are looking for Manaroth in a canyon. Somehow Manaroth sneaks up behind them, then Thrall throws his hammer but it had no effect. Thrall gets knocked out, then Manaroth speaks to Hellscream.
The boy believed you could be saved, but he didn't know what burns within your soul. Within your heart, you know we are the same.
So he charges straight in and actually breaks through his weapon and armor. Manaroth explodes, which mortally wounds Hellscream. Thrall limps over to listen to Hellscream's final words.
Thrall, the blood haze has lifted. The demon's fire has burnt out in my veins. I have freed myself. No, old friend. You've freed us all.
So overall, the Orc campaign has some great chapters and does a great job continuing the overall story, while also explaining some history of the Orcs and how they are connected to the Burning Legion, plus the moment where history repeats itself, so great job to everybody. In the first chapter of the Night Elf campaign, we meet Chandris Feathermoon, asking why Tyrande Whisperwind is looking out on the forest. Tyrande sends out her owl scout and listens in on the human and orc encampment. She then decides to build a base and then deal with this group. As usual, the first chapter teaches you the unique things of this new race. Usually the second chapter would teach you the base building, but here we start off with base building. So you have the main structure, a tree of life. You need this to build, or as they say, entangle the gold mine. Just like the undead, you place 5 workers, or in this case wisps, into the mine, then send wisps to collect wood. I usually had about 8 or 10 of them collecting wood. The wisps are like the Zerg from StarCraft, where some structures will consume the wisp. However, some structures like the Moonwell will actually give you the wisp back. You can find this furbog camp just south of your base and need to find 10 furbogs scattered around the map. I spent most of the time building an army of archers. Since that was the only unit I could make, I maxed out my unit capacity. Once I had the most I could, then I grabbed 3 more to go over the cap, then moved out and found all the furbogs. Then I ran back to turn in the quest, which then they gave me some furbogs to help me attack the enemy base. All you need to do is kill the paladin. He will go invulnerable for a moment, so just wait until he comes out of it, then kill him to win. Then the Burning Legion and Undead Scourge arrive and begin attacking. Tyrande and her rangers retreat, but are getting chased by Tichondrius. So it's an alright first chapter. It's just to teach you the basics of the Night Elves. Also, it's pretty cool at night that they can cloak. Next chapter, Tyrande gets surrounded and Archimonde approaches to speak with her. Tyrande can't believe it's been 10,000 years since she last saw him.
This time, your troublesome race will not stop us. Fools! You let her slip away! Find her, damn you! Find her and kill her.
Now you need to do some careful movement and hide with your cloak ability. There are Doomguards patrolling this area, so move when it's clear and cloak before they land an attack. The Doomguards will cast Cripple, which slows Tyrande. Firstly, head up here to get some useful items, then make your way south. You'll find some archers and continue on to fight some humans and undead. Destroy the tent to get a ring of superiority, then come across undead attacking an orc base. Just run by and get to the Waygate. There is a mantle of intel +3, so definitely grab that. Then heal up in the fountain. You'll get huntresses. They can tank a little bit more than archers. The next area has more Doomguards, but now there's shades everywhere, so you'll be detected. Just kill the shades to clear a path and get your elf army through. To the right of the gate is a green Doomguard. He'll get attacked by some humans, so just kill them all, and the Doomguard will drop a Tome of Agility. Then you'll come across some ballistas. Use them to clear out the structures from a distance. Also have them destroy these trees, and you'll find a Hydralisk from StarCraft. It does a lot of damage, so clearing out this undead base becomes easier, or you could just use this path on the right to easily get to the Night Elf base. The Hydralisk is even hanging out during the cutscene. Tyrande meets up with Sandris. She tells her sisters that the undead were sent here by the Burning Legion, which means they must hurry and awaken the Druids. Overall, it was a fun dungeon crawl type chapter, and finding a StarCraft Easter egg only confirms that Warcraft and StarCraft exist in the same universe. Or at least I hope so. Maybe one day we'll get a crossover game called Warcraft vs StarCraft? Well, I guess for now we'll just have to settle for Heroes of the Storm. Next chapter, Tyrande says with Cenarius dead, they must awaken the Druids. So first they need to recover the demigod's horn, which is the only thing that can awaken the Druids. However, there is an orc encampment in the way. They'll have to fight their way through. Then some huntresses report the undead are encroaching on a burrow den. It houses the wisest and most powerful of all the Druids. So this chapter was frustrating. I had to restart so many times. I don't like being timed and told, hurry up. Sometimes it might be fun, but all it does is just require me to play a specific way. Since I need to hurry up, it limits what I can do. So first thing I did was get 10 wisps up to start getting me lots of lumber. Then sent one to this gold mine so I had extra income. Then built some structures here close to the orc base. That way I have troops constantly being made and brought right to the front line. However, the orcs have a lot of forces, so it won't be easy. And they will chase after you, which could be a good thing to fight and kill some of them away from their base. It did help with killing their hero unit, but he sometimes comes back to life soon after. After many tries, I eventually destroyed the base and still had a little bit of time left. The key thing in this chapter are the Dryads. They are spell immune, so they won't get stunned or have debuffs on them. Actually, they have an ability to dispel negative buffs on allies and dispel positive buffs on enemies. Once you have enough forces, kill the 3 ghosts and their guardians to win. Tyrande sounds the horn of Gondor and awakens Malfurion Stormrage. He wakes up and sends some treants to attack the undead. Overall, it was a tough chapter, and being forced to get through it quickly made for a fun challenge, but again, I prefer not having a timer. I wish there was a way to send forces to stop the undead from destroying the trees, or at least slow them down in some way. That could have been an interesting game mechanic in terms of spending resources to slow them down instead of actually focusing on the orc base. Next chapter, Malfurion and Tyrande talk. Malfurion says it's been 1,000 years since he last saw Tyrande and could feel the corruption of their land while he was in the Emerald Dream. He knows Archimonde will make his way to the World Tree and suck the energies from it, which will mean the end of the world. Then they hear fighting between humans and undead. Malfurion thinks they could be powerful allies against the undead, but Tyrande says they are the reason for Cenarius' death and can't be trusted. For this chapter, it's going to show you how versatile the Night Elf bases are. They can move whenever you like and defend themselves. There's not much gold in these areas, so you'll need to constantly move your base. The orcs and undead will send flyers over your base and attack each other. Sometimes they will send a force to attack you. When you get an army up and running, advance forward to encounter some furbolgs that have been corrupted. It's an optional quest, but if you do it, you'll get a clause of attack +5. Now you'll come across a human base. Try using the ballistas to take out the towers and protect them as the army comes out to attack. Eventually I move inside to take out the base and move my base in. Now we're in a corrupted forest. Watch out for the banshees, they will possess your troops, so try to focus them down. There's a boss at the end to kill and restore this area. Then you'll move forward and find some corrupted night elves. So move up your base and destroy the corrupted night elf base, finally getting to the end and awaken the Druids of the Talon. Overall, this was a fun, challenging chapter. With the limited gold, you'll have to be extra careful on what units you spend and try to keep every unit alive. Next chapter has Tyrande and Malfurion go into a deep burrow to find the Druids of the Claw. It's another dungeon crawl, so do some exploring and find some cool items. There are some small hidden places, so keep your eye out and use Malfurion's Treant spell to clear the way to these secret areas. You now have control of Druids of the Talon. They can cast a spell to reduce the armor of a target. It doesn't seem like much, but I think I underestimate just how much 4 armor does to a unit. There is an optional quest to go fill this empty vial at a fountain of health. You then get a talisman that summons furbolgs to help fight. There's also this giant panda to fight, clearly another Easter egg for the Pandaren, and drops a necklace of spell immunity. As they continue further in, they come across a prison. Malfurion knows this prison is holding his brother Illidan inside. Tyrande thinks he could be a good ally against the demons, but Malfurion thinks he will cause more harm than good if released.
I forbid it.
Only the goddess may forbid me anything. I will free Illidan whether you like it or not.
Now you just have Malfurion and some Night Elves to control. I try to move forward, but they take a lot of damage, so sometimes I had to run back to the fountain and restore their health. Eventually getting to the Druids, but they have been in their bear form for so long they become feral and attack. While Malfurion could just sound the horn and awaken the Druids that could hear the horn, then make his way to the center, but no, that would be too easy. They need to wait and get there first, then sound the horn. I don't understand. Maybe the horn needs to recharge after each sounding, or maybe it takes a lot of air to sound it. Anyway, it is easy to just rush to the end and complete the objective. Now we go back to Tyrande, who's inside the prison. Make your way around and go behind these trees to find the Shrine of the Uberfish, which only has a mantle of intel. Then go kill the final bit of enemies and release Illidan.
Illidan, is that you?
Tyrande, it is your voice. After all these ages spent in darkness, your voice is like the pure light of the moon upon my mind.
The Legion has returned, Illidan. Your people have need of you once more.
Because I once cared for you, Tyrande, I will hunt down the demons. But I will never owe our people anything.
They all meet back up and Illidan and Malfurion begin to argue, but Tyrande tells them to stop and remember they need to get back to the surface and stop the Burning Legion. Overall, it was a fun dungeon crawler and interesting for them to introduce a new character this late into the game. Next chapter we follow Illidan, who's in the forest of Felwood. He's upset his brother still thinks he's the villain and mentions the demons have no control over him, hinting that he did work for the Burning Legion at one point. Then Arthas appears from a hill and challenges him to a fight. After a little bit, Illidan asks what he wants. They stop fighting and Arthas tells him the Dreadlord that commands the undead army is Tychondrius. He's using an artifact called the Skull of Gul'dan to corrupt the forest. Illidan asks why he's freely giving up this information. Arthas responds that he has no love for Tychondrius and the Lich King would benefit in the Legion's downfall.
Why should I believe anything you say, little human?
My master sees all, Demon Hunter. He knows that you've sought power your whole life. Now it lies within your grasp. Seize it, and your enemies will be undone.
This chapter is a fun challenge. You'll have 3 different colored armies attack your base, so get to building an army quickly. You have the Druids of the Claw, which can cast a roar that increases all units within an area to deal more damage. Then they have a heal over time ability, and can transform into a bear. These will be your frontline tank units. I started off by attacking the orange base to the right side of my base, then did some scouting around and took out the wildlife until I got to the green base. Then finally made my way to the skull and destroyed the demon gate next to it. Illidan then consumes the skull and becomes more powerful.
Now I am complete.
Now you need to go to the top right corner of the map and kill Tychondrius. He's really tough, and I lost most of my army just getting to him, but I was able to kill him. Then Tyrande and Malfurion show up asking what has happened to Illidan. He says it's him and was able to kill the leader of the undead and assures them the forest will heal in time.
At the cost of your soul, you are no brother of mine. Be gone from this place and never set foot in our lands again.
So be it, brother.
We get an interlude of Malfurion and Tyrande meeting somewhere because Malfurion had a dream of a raven summoning him there. Thrall and Jaina show up and say they were summoned as well. They introduce themselves, but Tyrande responds with they are not welcome here. Then the prophet shows up and says they've come to aid them against the Legion.
But who are you to make such an offer to us?
I am the reason for the Legion's return.
He then talks about how he brought the orcs into this world. He was then killed by his friends, and despite his death, the war between orcs and humans continued for years.
Now, at long last, I have returned to set things right. I am Medivh, the last guardian. I tell you now, the only chance for this world is for you to unite in arms against the enemies of all who live.
In the final chapter of the Night Elf campaign, Jaina teleports in, says she's sorry she's late, and reports Archimonde will be here any moment. Malfurion then says 10,000 years ago they defeated the Burning Legion, which is known as the War of the Ancients. There's lots of story to explain, so definitely go find lore videos on that. Malfurion then heads to the summit to prepare the defenses and set the trap for Archimonde.
Hear me, Night Elves. The time for reckoning has come.
Jaina then tells Tyrande if they can support their bases and prevent them from being overrun, they can delay Archimonde. That's right, this chapter is a holdout map for 45 minutes. But I actually really enjoyed it. I do feel some people may hate this chapter because there is the chance that if you don't do a good job holding the enemy back for long enough, the later part of the game becomes impossible. However, I feel that's the fun. You need to hurry and build defenses and spam units to the front line and hold off the undead for as long as possible. The undead get stronger with each wave they send until you eventually will get overrun, or at least it appeared to be. I'm not sure if it's actually possible to hold them back entirely at the human base. I don't really have a solid strategy except just make sure you have 2 gold mines mining at the same time and have at least 10 wisps gathering wood. Then build your production structures close to the front line so your soldiers don't have a long distance to travel. Also build lots of ancient protectors since they won't take up any unit cap. Malfurion's ultimate is on a short cooldown and it heals allies around him, so make sure to use that every time to keep your units and allies alive. Tyrande has the Starfall ability which deals lots of damage to all enemies near her, but it is on a long cooldown so make sure to use it wisely. Eventually the wave gets too strong and overwhelms the force I have there, so I need to fall back to the Orc base and begin rebuilding my army and build new ancient protectors there. So I would say if you hold off the undead at the human base to about the 30-minute mark, then you're in good shape.
You are very brave to stand against me, little human. If only your countrymen had been as bold, I would have had more fun scouring your wretched nations from the world.
Is talking all you demons do?
The good thing is the undead waves reset to the first and easy wave, then gets progressively harder again. Keep trying to hold them back for as long as possible. I did send my Tree of Life to the 3rd gold mine so I had even more income. Eventually I couldn't hold it anymore and retreated back to my base. If you have about 8 minutes left on the timer, you should be in good shape to win at this point.
You orcs are weak and hardly worth the effort. I wonder why Manaroth even bothered with you.
Our spirit is stronger than you know, demon. If we are to fall, then so be it. At least now, we are free.
Wicked little whelp actually hurt me.
I would say to hold out here near the Fountain of Health. It's on the high ground, so enemy range units have the chance to miss a target that's on higher ground than them. Also keep in mind the undead will try to attack from 2 paths. Since the waves restart again, there was plenty of time for me to hold off these weaker waves. With 45 seconds left, Archimonde will join the fight as you can see, and he takes like no damage. So I just wait for the timer and we win. Archimonde destroys the structures in his path and destroys the gate. Malfurion says Archimonde will not see the trap he has laid for him. Overall, I thought this would be the most difficult chapter in the game, but while it was a big challenge, I worked really hard at it, and by the end I felt like a sweaty Korean Grandmaster player. I was constantly looking around my base and checking on my army. It felt good to beat it because I worked really hard to ensure my victory.
The Outlanders held him back as long as they could. Were you successful in planning the summit's defense?
Yes. Now our victory is assured.
The final cinematic shows Archimonde at the World Tree. Then Malfurion sounds the Horn of Gondor, and we see an army of wisps surround him and cause him to explode. We see new roots begin to grow.
The roots will heal in time, as will the entire world. As for me, I came back to ensure that there would be a future, to teach the world that it no longer needed guardians. The hope for future generations has always resided in mortal hands. And now that my task is done, I will take my place amongst the legends of the past.
There was supposed to be one more chapter for the Night Elves. The way the developers describe it sounds like you have to physically slow Archimonde down in some way as he makes his way to the World Tree. It sounds very similar to the chapter we just played, and if that was the case, I'm glad they cut that chapter. So overall, the Night Elf campaign feels short, not because it just has 7 chapters, but story-wise, not that much happens. It's just the Night Elves running around, gathering their army, then having the final battle. Maybe we could have had 1 or 2 chapters that relives a moment from the War of the Ancients to show more of the rivalry between the Burning Legion and the Night Elves. It's still fun, and I do enjoy playing through it, but just not as much as the others. If I had to rank all of them, I would say Night Elf is at the bottom, then Orc, then Human, then Undead, as my arbitrary ranked list. In conclusion, Warcraft 3 Reforged is still a fun game. You can tell Blizzard worked hard at crafting a well thought out story and tied each chapter to it. Then coming up with different gameplay styles like dungeon crawling, destroy enemy base, or holdout types. Then try to have a unique twist to each of those styles so it didn't feel too repetitive. Then you have hero units that have their own progression through leveling and items to collect throughout the campaign, which also adds replay value because you may try different items on your next playthrough. These hero units in multiplayer eventually led to the creation of Defense of the Ancients, or Dota. So if it wasn't for Warcraft 3, we may never have gotten Dota 2 or League of Legends. The changes made in Reforge are nice and help separate this version from the original. I might have liked the original better, but I'm not sure if that's just my nostalgia talking. I know people still have hatred towards this game, but I still recommend people who have never played Warcraft 3 to buy and play this game. It still is one of the best RTS games ever made. However, everyone will have their own opinion on which RTS game is actually the best. I personally think StarCraft 2. I would be interested to hear what you guys think is the all-time best RTS game out there. At the time of this video, Blizzard hasn't said anything about Warcraft 3. Surprising that it's the 20th anniversary and not even a simple message, but we all know why they aren't saying anything about Warcraft 3. It's clear Blizzard wants to bury and forget about this game. It would be nice if they at least acknowledge their mistake and try to make amends, but we all know that will never happen. The old Blizzard we once knew is gone, guys. Activision is in control and they simply want to milk everything Blizzard has to offer. Now that Microsoft is buying Blizzard, we can only hope that things will get better, but only time will tell if things change at Blizzard. The old philosophy of creating great quality games is not Blizzard's priority, no matter how many posts they try and claim on their website. I remember when Blizzard announced a game, they never mentioned a release date. They simply told us they will release it when it's ready. Blizzard made sure the games they released were fun and memorable to play. If you are a fan of RTS games, let's instead look forward to Stormgate. It's being developed by Frost Giant Studios and hired some former Blizzard employees who worked on Warcraft and StarCraft. Some of the things they say on their website, like customize your army in 3-player co-op versus AI, play 1v1, or squad up for 3v3. Most likely I'm gonna play through the campaign, but I'll be able to play through it with a friend. It's also gonna have its own esport. Hopefully this will be the next big RTS game. Oh, and it's planned to be free to play in 2023. Some YouTube channels to check out is Designer Dave. He used to work at Blizzard and has an Ask Me Anything series of videos regarding the development of Warcraft 3. If you're interested, he also has videos about how to become a video game designer. Then there's Ablehawk, who has many videos on Warcraft 3 and all the Easter eggs he could find. Finally, I would also recommend checking out Giant Grant Games. He has some great videos like how to beat StarCraft and Warcraft without losing a single unit. If you want to play more Warcraft 3 campaigns, you'll need to turn to fan-made mods, like Warcraft 3 Chronicles of the Second War, and Warcraft 3 Reforged. Next month will be a game about jetpacks and skis. See you then! Thanks for watching! I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe to help grow my channel, and comment below on what you thought. Also check out my other videos. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.